Welcome Aries to your in-depth monthly horoscope for December 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. Just going to give you a brief overview of what to expect. Mercury starts the month in your sister fire sign of Sagittarius, but later on the first day moves into the sign of Capricorn. But it is in a pre-retrograde shadow, slams on the brakes on the 13th. In Capricorn, inverts back into the sign of Sagittarius on the 23rd. So that's a big part of this month's story. Now, Jupiter is the planet of fortune, but it's in a retrograde all but the last day of the month. So we need to check out that too. We also have a spectacular new moon on the 12th, which links to the North Node in your sign. But we do have also a full moon on the 27th. When choosing our words carefully, as the curtain comes down on this year, will be important. Going to share with you what goes on Christmas Day and on New Year's Eve. Now, if you've yet to order your personal horoscope for year 2024, if you do so now, you can still get the rest of this year free. But also my special package, you'll get your character analysis report, your life roadmap, and 30% off, but also your year 2024 zodiac forecast for each of the 12 signs, but also Indian forecast for each of the 12 signs, and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 animal signs. Totally free of charge, those booklets. Please see the link below for more. So Aries, as you make your way into December, I feel there's a sense of excitement or a sense of restlessness. Perhaps there's part of you that wants to be a bit more adventurous. This could see you setting up some kind of expedition away from your home place for the festivities. Perhaps you're going to spend it with family members, as a lot of people do, but it's also possible you may head off for some winter sun or some snow, depending on what you really like most. But with Mercury moving on the first day from your sector of travel to the part of your situation that's to do with work, and also in its pre-retrograde shadow, I feel that it is possible that you could be feeling a little bit unsettled in your work. And this may be especially so if the atmosphere in your situation is not quite as you would like. It may be that you're not actually seeing anyone in a particularly negative light. It may just be something you're picking up on that's making you feel a little bit just not sure if you're in the right environment or with the right people. But one of the great things about Mercury in this part of our situations, it can help us to download more information, particularly with the Sun and your ruler Mars in your 9th house. Great for new knowledge and the appetite to gain it. But it could be that could be on the job training. It could be that you are going to go on a new skills course, adapting old experiences and knowledge in a fresh way. Or it may be even a correspondence course. So all of that can be very helpful. But the 4th sees Venus make the transition from the sign of Libra, which it governs, which has been promoting a spirit of harmony and equilibrium, but it dives deep into Scorpio, where it technically is debilitated. I feel for you this can work in a number of ways. If you've got to know someone recently and it's going well, this could help to make the tie that much more solid, and where you'll become more invested, even devoted. The 8th house can be about sex. Venus can be about desire in some ways, but it also could be an opportunity for you to use your relating skills around your business situation or your finances. Venus very much the money planet, and the 8th house is our longer term financial situation. So something to do with shared finances or some advice you get could turn out to have some serendipity as this month goes on. What about if you're in a relationship which is not working so well? Well, of course, the sign of Scorpio, which hosts Venus, can be in some ways about endings, can be about where things are rejuvenated and phoenix-like, or they come to a close. So it would just depend on your situation. But whether it was a professional relationship or a personal relationship, one of the big features of December for you, Aries, is going to be the concept of trust. If you're in situations where, even if you can't see anything, you don't have any tangible proof, if you like, of the fact that people may not be on side, I feel that you will be much more attuned to the potential for that. Now, on the 6th, Neptune ends a 158-day retrograde. 22 and a half weeks is a long time since the end of June, and it's been in your psychological sector, and Neptune is a very nebulous energy. Wonderful, if we're interested in painting, photography, movies, escapism, any kind of spiritual pursuit, but not so good in the real world, because Neptune can distort but also exaggerate, and potentially in this area are anxieties. Now the key is, by the time we have the new moon of the 12th, which is sensational in the sense that it trines up with the North Node in your sign, really supercharging and encouraging you to be more adventurous, but at the same time make sure that you're guided by your instincts, the node. It is true that from that point, the Sun is squaring with Neptune through to the 17th. So with the Sun in house 9, which can be about growth, but also exaggeration, and the 12th house be about fears, but the things that are less tangible, there's a sensitive potential that comes in on top of that particular new moon. So where you're with people you're not quite so sure of, it's important to really own it and don't dismiss your own senses. The 13th sees Mercury go into its retrograde in Capricorn. Now obviously that could be around a professional situation. You may be waiting to hear about a job application, or if you put a proposal together for someone, if you work for yourself, or it could be a property matter, could slow down a little bit. The 10th house, Mercury, Capricorn, can be about structures, can be about business, but it also can be about the need to communicate with people who are in positions of influence. So patience will be needed with that, and tact. Also from the 18th to the 23rd, Venus goes into an electric opposition with Uranus. Now, whatever your circumstances, this can either bring someone to you in a very magnetic way, or see you want to separate from someone where it isn't working so well for you. Uranus is where we're being asked to embrace the authenticity of our situation. The second house is about your values in the sign of Taurus. Of course, it's resistant to Uranus because Uranus likes change and Taurus likes stability because it's a fixed sign and earth. And because Uranus is in retrograde through to the 3rd week of January, this could cause some friction, to be honest. But equally, if you're out and about at some kind of festive gathering, you may set your sights on someone who could really, really set your pulse racing. In an existing relationship, perhaps a few tensions could come up about the festive budget, or maybe one of you wants to go out and do something a bit more spontaneously. It's important with Venus in Scorpio to be aware of the issues of possessiveness and jealousy. Sometimes giving someone, a partner, a friend, a little bit of space, not trying to necessarily dominate what their desires are, is actually a very healthy thing to do and can bring them back to you in a real positive way. Now, the last 2 weeks of this month do have a really great link between Jupiter and Saturn. Now, Jupiter is obviously about growth, but in the sign of Taurus, it slows it down. It makes it more realistic, and of course, it's in retrograde. So what we've got, the planet of growth and the planet of consolidation are actually collaborating well. So I feel that because Saturn is in your 12th house, past experiences, knowledge, a culmination of experiences that's built up. It depends how old you are, but essentially, if you are older than 29 and a half, this is going to be a profound experience. If you are around about 28 to 30, this is going to be your first Saturn return. So having Jupiter just levitated the brevity of Saturn is a good thing. And that aspect is also going to go into the first 3 months of the new year. Now, the 22nd is a really important date in the celestial calendar. It's the winter solstice. And now we can all talk about the length of days, but actually in astrological terms, this ushers in cardinal quadrant 4, the last of the most important structural foundations of Western tropical astrology, which is not based on, as we see it, the moving constellations. It's based on the seasons. So this next 13-week period takes us up to the spring equinox and the start of the new astrological year. So basically, astrology, Western tropical astrology, is a Mediterranean construct. But it is a time, the next 13 weeks, when you're being encouraged to take your ambitions, goals, and desires to make progress in a more material context really seriously. But the 23rd sees Mercury, as it's slowing down in its retrograde, invert into the sign of Sagittarius. So if you are looking to do that festive holiday plan, all the usual precautions we have to take with Mercury retrograde in terms of keeping in touch with weather forecasts, making sure that our mode of transport has, all the necessary kit and equipment should things go awry. So make sure your phone's charged up, the oil's topped up, the water's topped up, your battery's working well, you've got a spade in there if you're going to encounter any snow, a map just in case you get out of signal and you can't use your phone for navigation. All these basic things that we can influence would be a good thing to be mindful of. If you are going further afield, obviously being really conscious of documentation and visas and jabs and all that kind of good stuff. But I think it's inevitable that there will be some industrial disputes or technological issues or glitches that do affect the travel system over the festive season. I think that's pretty nailed on. Also, the last week of the year sees Neptune squaring up with Mercury and Mars. Mercury in that retreat meeting the advancing Mars in the sign of Sagittarius. So again, if we're impatient about how we go about things or we don't have a clear understanding of information, remember Neptune could distort and really put out of kilter the clarity of situations. That can be an issue. But what about Christmas Day? Well, the moon's actually in the light and breezy Gemini, which for you is lovely. Third house, it's chatty, sociable potentially, but it too gets caught up in being in a square with Neptune, which can be tricky. So just be conscious of that there could be some confusion about arrangements. So double check things with people before you head off. That brings us to the 27th and the full moon in the sign of Cancer. And of course, the moon governs Cancer. We could feel an intensity around our emotions, but actually this moon feeds in beautifully to that great link, that sextile between Jupiter and Saturn. In the case of Saturn, it's actually a trine. So that's very stabilising. So from the 25th to the 28th, we have a glorious link between the Sun and Jupiter. One of the best planetary aspects you can possibly get, a trine. It's an Earth trine, so it's very much about material things, but also about appreciating perhaps the basic things in life which actually can bring us a lot of pleasure. And although Venus moves on the 29th into Sagittarius, where she's very inquisitive, flirty, and free and easy, the 31st does see Jupiter come out of its retrograde. So as we pull the curtain down on 2023, it is in a very positive way, particularly for you if you're setting your intentions about some career changes throughout 2024. because having the Sun and Jupiter in that trine is something that's really going to be very helpful indeed. But we do have Mercury and Mars very close together as 23 ends, and that can be quite impatient. Just be conscious of that. So if you're traveling anywhere, just really enjoy the excursion. Don't try to rush anywhere, because with Mercury in retrograde, there could be some snags and mishaps if that's the case. So it's a fascinating month, a month where you do need to be aware of the part of your nature that wants to be expansive, experimental, independent and adventurous, and that's competing with another part of your nature or your situation, which needs to make you mindful of things that perhaps make you feel a bit more vulnerable or unsure, or you're not quite sure of who you can really rely or trust. So don't be too open this month. But as the month goes on, and from the 22nd, when the Sun returns to Capricorn on the solstice, I feel that your leadership credentials and just really taking responsibility around setting up some fun times for folks, or thinking about what you want to achieve in the new year is really coming sharply into focus. I'd like to wish you a very happy Christmas and New Year, and I'd really be appreciative if you would like, comment, share or subscribe.